Excellent. So thank you everyone for joining us. As I just asked, this is being recorded, so you can feel free to share this with anyone else you want to share. We'll make sure to send out the link after the after the webinar itself. But thank you for joining. Today we'll be talking about the Precast ScrapDown Challenge, which will be taking place starting at the beginning of next year. We're going to have Jeff Pollock, the CEO of Idencia, start us off today by talking a little bit about what made us want to actually start this contest and what the challenge looks like for the participants. And then I'll go in after him and give you some more details. So with that, Jeff, I will hand it on over to you.
Thank you, Jillian. And thank you, Caitlin. My volume okay now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate your interest in what we're doing here. We like to think of this ScrapDown challenge as an industry challenge with a greater purpose. And by that, what I'm talking about is we actually have three objectives. One is we want to raise money and awareness for the NPCA Foundation. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with that, the NPCA Foundation, I'll talk about this more, exists to help support the industry. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that is being done. But secondly, we also want to offer a novel way for producers to be able to intrigue their labor teams to focus more on productivity. And then third, we want to bring awareness of the efficiency of the precast industry to the construction industry at large. And that's obviously something we're all very interested in. So I'll get into a little bit more of each of these. Caitlin, if we could have the next slide. The NPCA Foundation, I've actually been on the board of it for about 3 years now. And it does some really incredible work that happens to be really pertinent to the primary issues that we see today. Now, I've been to countless number of events and CEO forums and so forth for the precast industry. And in every one of them, we hear concerns about the labor shortage and the skills gap. Now, the NPCA Foundation has as its primary mission to help address those issues. So what we are doing is working with schools and universities to create curricula that will bring more talented people into the industry. We're also offering scholarships to individuals that are interested in studying to have a career in the precast industry. So as with any foundation, there are always two primary challenges. One is raising money, and the second one is raising awareness of the foundation to its constituents so that we can work together better. And it's been interesting to me because I know that I've seen a number of times where we've worked on trying to create internship programs, for instance, with schools and local precasters, and yet we still have trouble at times getting engagement from the precasters. So our hope here is that by running this contest, we can actually get more awareness in the precast industry about the foundation and, of course, raise money for it. All right, Caitlin, going to the next one. Now, this is set up so that we will have two grand prizes. Every participant, excuse me, will contribute $1,000 to participate in the contest. Of that, $500 will be an immediate donation to the NPCA Foundation. The other $500 will be put into a prize pool that will be distributed to two winners. One will be the precaster with the lowest percentage of volume of concrete scrapped versus the total amount of volume poured during the 3 months of the contest. And the second prize will be for the most improved precaster during that 3-month period. So one thing that's important to remember is before I go on to the next slide, the very important to remember, which I don't know that we made really clear, is that none of the results of an individual precaster will be published to anybody else. What we will have is averages of all of the participants. And as Jillian will show you, you'll actually be able to see more or less in real time what the average of the group is doing. But nobody's individual performances will be shared with any other precaster. Now, the third piece is what I love about this is that everybody wins. So clearly we have the cash prizes. Our hope is that the winners will distribute the prize money to the team that made it happen as a form of a bonus or some sort of celebration, that kind of thing. But obviously it's up to the winners to do with it what they will. Now, with the numbers that I talked to you before about $500 coming into the cash pool, if we get 10 participants in the contest, then each of the winners will get $2,500 for their labor teams. If we get 50, each of the winners will get $12,500. So I hope that this is a motivation and incentive to get as many people many plants as we can participating. Now, the other thing though is that, as I mentioned before, our intent is to help the industry promote itself. So we will be doing a lot of work in promoting the contest itself, but also with the permission of the participants, we will promote those individual companies who are participating in the contest as leaders that are showing off their chops about what they can do with productivity. So this is an important piece of it that's not tangible, but I think is very, very valuable. And then last, as we say, everyone wins because all participants will be using our new OneSource platform at no cost for the purpose of tracking. And as a result of that, you'll be able to get some insights to some of the root causes of the problems that you're having. And that, of course, is valuable too. So with that, let me go over to talk a little bit about how the content, how it'll work. And then after that, I'll turn it over to Jillian, who will give you talk about some housekeeping items about the contest, and then actually give you a run through of how the data will be collected and how it will show up on your dashboard. So for those of you who know us, we are in the business of making data easier to collect in the plant and making better use of that data once collected. That's really what we do. That's the software that we offer. So when we put on the contest, we recognized that people are not going to be wanting to spend a lot of time figuring out how to use the system to participate in a contest. They want to make it work really easily within their continuing workflow. So we have set it up so that all you need to do is recognize when you have scrap and log it. For those of you who know us, most of the time most of our customers are using either barcodes or RFID tags. That will not be required here. So it'll just be entering information on a mobile app. To do that will take about 1 to 2 minutes when you have scrap, and that'll be it. And then the other time that you need to enter information is either daily or weekly. Make sure that you enter in the total volume of concrete that you poured during that period so that we can have both metrics for determining the lowest volume of scrap versus the volume of concrete poured. That's it. And then after that, obviously, if you want to use your dashboard to see what's going on, there's value in that for you, and that's certainly up to you. But we're very excited about this because we believe we've made something that is going to be easy to participate in and can have a lot of positive effect for the industry by virtue of helping the foundation, helping yourselves, and I hope promoting a spirit of really kind of fun, competitive, experience that will be something that the labor teams will relate to and that way as well help the industry. So having said all of that, I'll now turn it over to Jillian, and Jillian, you can show everybody, talk a little bit more about the housekeeping and how it works.
Sure, excellent, thank you. So yes, there are, of course, some housekeeping tasks. Jeff just explained how easy it is to actually do everything in Idencia, but of course, there is an element of learning to this. Caitlin and I worked really hard to get the onboarding to be as seamless as possible. If you've ever onboarded to Idencia before, this is going to be a very different experience. We're going to have a 30-minute webinar in December for everyone onboarding to the project at once. That way you can ask all your questions and potentially learn from other participants and get all your questions answered. And we'll also provide to you a training. This training involves about 20 minutes worth of training videos and written documentation that we put together. You'll hear my voice a lot throughout those, but it's going to get you really in touch with exactly what you need to know for this competition in particular. Along with that, you will also have full access to the support team at Idencia, and we'll help you with any hiccups that happen along the way and be here to support you throughout the contest. It's really important to us that you have a nice, smooth experience with this. We know that technology is a make or break, and we really want it to be that making moment for you. So all in all, altogether, you're looking at less than an hour to onboard and train to the system. So it should not be that heavy of a lift for you all. There's also some key dates I want to put in your mind if you're thinking about participation. The duration of this contest will be for 3 months. We're going to start at the beginning of January of next year, so in just about 6 weeks from now. It'll run through the end of March of 2025. For exact dates, you can visit the website that I'm sure Caitlin will link somewhere, or maybe that you actually got in the email along with the invitation. Signups are now through mid-December. The exact cutoff date, I believe, is December 21st, Caitlin? Maybe?
I think the 20th.
The 20th,
that's the Friday.
That's the Friday. So sign up by then just to give yourself a period for actually onboarding, because you do have to finish onboarding before the end of the year this year in order to be eligible to participate come that first week of January. After the contest has concluded in March, we will then announce the winner in April of 2025 after we've done all of our calculations and checking to make sure that everything is all fair and square. So with that, I am going to now jump into actually showing you all the systems. So I'm going to go ahead and share my other screen here. I'm working with a couple monitors. And hopefully, Caitlin, Jeff, can I have a thumbs up? Can you see my dashboard now? Excellent. So this is the OneSource Gateway, as we're calling it. This is the website that brings you to the new Idencia system. And again, if you're familiar with Idencia, it might look familiar, but slightly different. And this is the dashboard we've created for you. So just like Jeff said earlier, there's a lot of great value you can get in this dashboard with all sorts of information about your scrap. You can see the trend line of all of the repairs approved versus scrap that you've had to send to your scrapyard over the period of the contest. You can see an estimate of the cost of your scrap in the last 30 days. You can compare yourself to the industry scrap rate. And I think eventually this will be the other competitors once we get more data in the system. So you'll be able to see how you're doing versus everyone else in terms of your scrap rate. You can also see specifics of what specific types of items you're having issues with and why. What's that defect type and what's that root cause, as well as how much waste it's overall providing in your plant in terms of volume of concrete per piece being scrapped or needing effective repairs. And then one of my personal favorite breakdowns is you can actually see the root cause by type. So here in this particular instance, we've got a lot of mold and form issues, and I'm able to drill down further into that and make those improvements in my plant to really gain that value there. And similarly with the types of defects, maybe we can implement some more training about how to reduce cracking in our pieces. And that's really important to us as a plant. So that's your dashboard. There's tons of other things you can do on Idencia, and you will have access to explore all of that while you are using this system as well.
I have a question.
Sure, Greg.
When you say scrapped, you're referring to your thought is just the product itself is junk? Or
Yeah.
so you're not looking at scrap, meaning like leftover rebar, leftover foam. You're looking at that also?
I believe the initial intent, Jeff, you're muted. If you want to talk, you should unmute. But I believe the initial intent is just to measure that the scrap that could have been avoided from products that are being discarded, which instead of being sold are being discarded, not the scrap that you're sweeping up off the plant floor every day.
Okay,
Mistakes, more or less, Greg, yeah.
Yes.
yeah, all right,
Yeah, that's actually something that we could, in the system, we could also attend to what you're talking about. But for the contest, we wanted to make it as simple as possible.
sure. No, that's understandable. I was under the impression it was gonna be all of it, or, you know, or those two things, but that's fine. It's just a product.
Okay.
So jumping over into the mobile app, this is where you're going to spend probably the majority of your resources collecting all of the data. I see someone drawing on the screen here. So this is where you're going to spend the majority of your time collecting your data is in the mobile app, where the management portal or the gateway is really going to give you that dashboard high-level overview. I'm going to just show you really quick how fast it will be to enter data. And we're doing this live demo. Here's my hands, here's my phone. So you're getting 100% accurate information. So what I'll do first is auto-generate a serial number. You can see that this is created randomly based on the date and time. And then I'll select the kind of product I'm making. Right now, for this example, I'll go ahead and make a manhole. And then I'll enter a few pieces of information. I'll enter first the volume poured in this concrete piece, so about 3.5 units of concrete for this piece. I'll then mark that I had some honeycombing issues on this piece, which was caused by the mold and form. I will then say that we did in fact repair and it was approved and hit done. And that's all I have to do every time I have any sort of defect or scrap in the mobile app. And the most important thing, which is emphasized deeply in the training as well, is that you're always going to want to hit sync after you're done. One last thing I do want to mention, and it's that fast and easy to sync. One last thing I do want to mention is that if you ever have any questions while you're on the mobile app of how this works, you can click right into our knowledge base at the bottom here and search for the word ScrapDown, and all of the details of our training videos will be accessible to you on your mobile device directly there. So all of the support will be right at your fingertips. And
on the dashboard too.
Yes, on the dashboard as well. Let me pull that back up here. This self-help button on the side here will always be accessible for you to access all of our knowledge articles, and specifically searching ScrapDown will give you the knowledge about the contest in specific. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to our other screen now and open up the floor for any questions. You can either message them to Caitlin in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Jeff and I.
I thought that was a great question, Greg. Thanks for asking that. It helped us clarify. I presumed that, or we presumed that working with it, as we just described, with basically mistakes would probably be the preferred way to keep it easier. I'd be interested, Greg, if you felt there'd be more value in trying to extend it and in taking a little bit more time.
I don't know. I just, I like to pride ourselves where we really don't have that much scrap as defined by this program right now. I'm not saying that we don't get rid of things, but you know, maybe I would think we're looking for improvement, right?
Yep.
Is ultimately what we're looking for, right? I think we definitely have potential for improvement in that area, but it's going to be, we have a very small percentage of what we make is considered scrap under those guidelines.
Yep. Okay.
But, but we definitely have it, you know, so I just,
no, I think,
and then, you know, I think the first time through, it may make sense just to keep it this way. this will definitely be easy for us to implement the way you have it right now. If we needed to include like leftover pieces of rebar and, things that we use, not 100% of it kind of thing. It would take a lot more time to enter that data and keep track of it. So that might be a little overburdened for some, but what you have right now for shea concrete would be very easy to keep track of.
Good. Well, that's
I was gonna say, I wonder if we do like the ultimate precast scrap down challenge, where it's that next level of tracking scrap, where it does require a lot more effort into actually entering that data and collecting that information. But this is just kind of like the first step into scrap down.
It's a good step for sure.
Thanks.
But we, in my mind, scrap. I don't even look at product that we can't sell as scrap because luckily it's not a big concern for us.
Yeah.
I when I look at scrap, I look at all those pieces of rebar that they're not using that they're throwing in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Look at all the time it took to do that when I think it should have been done quicker. Look at something that you didn't really show this, I don't think, but there could be scrap could be considered. You do a pre-pour inspection and something has to be done over again. Because it was done wrong. That's the kind of scrap that would improve, but takes a lot more time to measure and keep data on.
Right. Yeah, that's where, as an offering, those are the places we want to go, because to be able to collect the data, making that as easy as possible for that, and then being able to present that, as I mentioned before, that's where we see a lot of potential value for the whole system, because they're like there, but they're sort of hidden. They're not really identified directly, and when you shine a light on it, then you're paying attention to it, and then things tend to be improved. So
I'm not sure the interpretation. I'm not sure what the other interpretation from other precasters was on this challenge.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to know what people thought.
I would too.
Because if it's just whether or not a piece has been rejected, I would think you'd get more people interested in it. Because I don't think that's a difficult thing to measure.
Yep. Other precasters on here that would like to speak to that, I think that would be really valuable for us. I didn't mean to cut you off, Greg, but
nope, that's fine. Nope. But I might have interpreted it wrong too, but.
Hi, Jose Castro here for Lock Solutions. I did understand, it's our industry. We do a lot of scrap, and that's pretty much what you guys were talking about pertains to. So on my understanding, I did understand that. I see this could help us out. Understanding, where our junk's going and our scrap's going, and how to fix it and where to start, right? Especially for a lot of companies, who are out there just starting out or don't have a good quality program in place. This could help out.
Good.
I do have a question that came from the chat that I would like to ask for them. Is it possible to track first pass yield instead of completely rejected product?
Yeah. I mean, basically, instead of, I guess before I jump to providing a quick answer, which I'm prone to do, I guess the question, I want to make sure I understand the question, which is it a suggestion that we sort of reverse the ratio where we get, instead of a scrap yield, which is the negative side, the positive, those that weren't with scrap, what percentage of it was that? Is that the question, or is it some other form of data collection? If that person is still here.
No, is the answer.
Pardon?
They answered no to your question.
Oh, it's not just reversing the metric.
Correct.
Is it taking repairs into account? Is that what you were wondering about, rather than just going right to scrap?
The way I understood it, and feel free to message in the chat if this is also incorrect. But the way I understood it is like sometimes repairs are avoided by like fixing them before they happen. That's at least my interpretation of the question. Like sometimes your pre-pour will fail, so instead of marking it as failed, you go ahead and fix it before it ever is documented as an issue. Is that what you were referring to?
I'm assuming I can be heard now.
Yes.
But it's just looking at anything that's outside of the normal process. If it requires a major repair instead of a complete rejection, unsellable, that if it takes a lot of work to repair it, you can track that first pass yield. We've got so many of them going through, they're good, but these few aren't. Instead of a complete, I mean, a lot of the concrete's repairable. You can epoxy inject, you can patch, you can do things to it. But it's
Right.
those that are outside of that standard.
Okay, so, and I'm really glad that came up. Thanks, Alan, I appreciate it. I would say that if one of the reasons, I think one of the values of having this webinar is to collect insights from the producers. Now, to change the process that Jillian showed you is very, very easy to do. We could do that. I think, so if most of the people felt like it would really be better to go to the first pass yield, which I understand, Alan, you to be saying, things that are just fine, they don't need a major repair or they're not scrapped, basically. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. If that's a better metric for people, we could do that very easily. I think it's a matter of what would be most recognized and sort of appealing to the industry to measure. Any other thoughts on that? Greg, you have any thoughts on that, if you're still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, that he had. So I agree with what you said.
Would the group feel, maybe through chat or whatever, that going with that first pass yield is a better metric than just going with the scrap? Because I do understand that, right? I mean, if you have to do a major repair, that's just that much less than scrap because it's costing so much money and time. So what we really would be looking here for would be a broader category of what would work, except we're not looking at it in the negative sense, we're looking at it in the positive sense. Anybody else have any thoughts or on that, whether that would be the better way to go? I feel like asking for Bueller. I think this is worthy of consideration. Maybe we could talk some more about that. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Jillian, but that's a very easy thing to change, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a quick thing to change, and I think the webinar in December potentially, if we had everyone who's already signed up, already done the onboarding training, if we want to come and iron out those wrinkles in that webinar, I think that would be a great format to do that in, because then everyone has an equal say. We can prepare some polls and other fancy things for that webinar as well.
That's a great idea. One thing I will ask, and maybe I'm going back to Alan and Greg again on this, in terms of presenting it and promoting it, do you feel as producers that would be easier for people to recognize and embrace than the way we're doing it?
Rephrase that question again. Oh, go ahead, if Alan has an answer.
I don't know that it's going to be as easy to promote and explain to everyone. A good number of the people would understand it, but I'm not sure that it'd be good for everybody to know first pass yield and understand that concept.
Right.
I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to promote it.
Right. Okay. So maybe the way to go then, Greg, did that make sense to you, what Alan was talking about vis-a-vis my question?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I think then Jillian has the right idea. My feeling was if by promoting it that way, people say, oh yeah, I get that, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do that. then I would say, well, maybe it's worth changing now. But I think that Jillian's idea is great. If that doesn't really make a difference in terms of getting more participation, then let's work out those details when we have the final group and we have that webinar to discuss. And maybe we can even, send out some polls beforehand or whatever. Okay. Good.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ellen. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I was going to say one of the other questions I got in the chat was, are the metrics provided based on the honor system, or do you require data that supports your percentages?
Well, more or less, I think it's on the honor system. We talked about this at the foundation. Greg will remember that. By the way, Greg is the incoming chair of or he's now the chair of the foundation. So thanks for that, Greg. Yeah, it's the honor system. It kind of works the way it's being done. I mean, you could just not record scrap and record your volume all the time, and you'd win because you'd have zero scrap. But our feeling is if people are going to do a contest like this, they're probably not going to cheat. And if they do, it's kind of on them. But I really kind of look at it in a more positive way. I'm just not really concerned about that. I think everybody will want to do it in good spirit and good faith. But it's a good question.
I also got a message saying unpassable structures could be considered as scrap and help remove extra confusion.
Okay, there you go. Right. That's great. That's a great point.
That's everything I have in the chat right now.
Okay. Well, it's perfect within our time frame. I think we said 45 minutes with a chance to answer questions. So
I said 30 minutes, and I gave everybody a 45-minute block just to make sure we had enough time on their calendars in case there were more questions. But we've hit our mark.
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, really, thank you all for this. We'll have it recorded and it'll be available for you. And we'll be reaching out to you to determine whether you want to continue going forward. We hope you will. And as I said before, I really appreciate your interest, and I hope we can do something really good for the foundation and the industry. That's our intent here. So thank you.